Shabbat Tov, and welcome back for another weekly Parsha reading. Today we're starting the last Parsha of the book of Bereshit, but before we do that, I wanted to read another little snippet from Rav Kook's Orat HaTorah on a chapter called Torah for Israel and the Entire World. He writes, the Torah is bound up in the spirit of Israel, and the abstract spirit of Israel encompasses everything: the light of God, the destiny of the universe, the source of souls. The essence of Israel's spirit, distilled from its national aspirations, seeks to realize the spiritual destiny of the entire world. As the influence of Torah grows stronger, as its wisdom spreads, its light shines forth, and its sentiments deepen within every soul. Divine enlightenment spreads throughout the world, gaining esteem and preeminence. The entire world is uplifted through the ascent of the select few who uplift the spirit of all humanity. So what I really like about this section is that it's a really great reminder of Torah learning being part of our national destiny and really our role as the Jewish people amongst the nations. For anybody who might have been following along from last week, if you actually did something with my prompt to share Torah in some way, shape, or form, kol hakavod if you did that. If you didn't do it last week, it's always just a great thing to think about. How can you share Torah and increase Torah in the world, even in your own simple ways? On my part, I'm happy that I'm continuing to do this weekly Torah reading and going strong even in the midst of some busy weeks. Again, I want to encourage you guys to do something to share Torah with others throughout this week. So I'm wishing you all the best for that. And if you'd like to comment and let me know how you've shared Torah in the last week, that would be awesome. And maybe it will inspire other people to do the same. So moving on, we're on the final Parsha of the book of Bereshit, Parashat Vayechi. Yaakov lived in the land of Egypt for 17 years. The total of Yaakov's days, the years of his life, were 147 years. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called his son Yosef and said to him, "If I have now found favor in your eyes, please place your hand beneath my thigh and swear an oath that you will do for me true kindness. Please don't leave me buried in Egypt. Let me lie with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their grave." "I will do as you say," said Yosef. Yaakov said, "Swear to me," and he swore to him. Then Yisrael bowed down to Yosef, turning towards the divine presence, which is at the top of the bed. Then after these words had been exchanged between Yaakov and Yosef, a messenger said to Yosef, "Beware, your father is sick." He took his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, with him, to Yaakov to bless them before he passed away. A messenger came to inform Yaakov and said, "Look, your son Yosef is coming to visit you." Yisrael summoned his strength and sat up on the bed, since Yosef was a king. Yaakov said to Yosef, "God Almighty appeared to me in Luz, in the land of Canaan, and he blessed me. He said to me, 'Look, I will make you fruitful and cause you to multiply, and I will make you into a multitude of peoples, and I will give this land to your descendants after you for an everlasting inheritance.' And now your two sons, who are born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you here in Egypt, will be counted as mine to receive a share in the land of Israel. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine, like Reuven and Shimon. But if you have more children after them, they will be counted as your own, and not as separate tribes. Regarding your inheritance, they will not be tribes unto themselves, but rather classified according to their brothers' names. I know that you are angry with me, because when I was coming from Padan, and Rachel died on me, while traveling through the land of Canaan, when there was still about half a mile stretch of land to Ephrat, and you're upset, I buried her there on the way to Ephrat in Beit Lechem, but you shouldn't be upset, because God told me to bury her there." Israel saw Joseph's sons. When he tried to bless them, the divine presence departed. So he said, "From where were these boys born who are not worthy of being blessed?" Producing his betrothal and marriage contracts, Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons whom God gave through a marriage certified by this documentation." When the divine spirit returned, Yaakov said, "Bring them near to me, and I'll bless them." Israel's eyes had become heavy with age, and he could not see. So Joseph brought the boys near to him, and he kissed them and hugged them. Israel said to Joseph, "I didn't even expect to see your face, and look, God has shown me your children too." After Yaakov kissed the boys, Joseph took them from Yaakov's lap and placed one child to his right and one to his left, so that he could rest his hands on them and bless them. Joseph stepped back and threw himself down on the ground. Joseph then took them both, Ephraim on his right to Israel's left, and Manasseh the firstborn on his left to Israel's right, so that he would place his right hand on the firstborn, and he brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and placed it on Ephraim's head, although he was the younger, and he placed his left hand on Manasseh's head. He guided his hands deliberately, in full awareness that Manasseh was the firstborn. He blessed Joseph and said, O God, before whom my fathers Avraham and Yitzhak walked, O God, who has looked after me from my birth to this day, may the angel whom you always sent to redeem me from all harm bless these lads. May they be called by my name and the name of my fathers, Avraham and Yitzhak, and may they increase in the land like fish. When Yosef saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he became upset. So he lifted up his father's hand, removing it from upon Ephraim's head, in order to place it on Manasseh's head. Yosef said to his father, Father, that's not right. This one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused. He said, I know, my son, that he is the firstborn. I know. He too will father a nation, and he too will be great. But his younger brother will be greater than him, and his children's fame will spread throughout the nations. He blessed them on that day, saying, The children of Israel will always bless their children with your names, saying, May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. He placed Ephraim before Manasseh in his blessing to indicate that he would take precedence in the order of the tribes. Israel said to Yosef, Look, I'm going to die. God will be with you, and he will bring you back to the land of your fathers. Since you are taking the trouble to bury me, I have given you one portion more than your brothers, the city of Shechem, which I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow, when they waged war against us after Shimon and Levi killed the people of Shechem. Yaakov called for his sons and said, Gather round, and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. But Yaakov found himself unable to reveal the time when Mashiach would come, so he changed the subject. He said, Sons of Yaakov, gather round and listen. Listen to Israel, your father. Reuven, you are my firstborn, my strength, conceived from my first drop of vigor. You are worthy of being privileged with priesthood and privileged with kingship. But because of your reckless haste, which was like running water, when you interfered with your father's bed, you will not be privileged, for then you desecrated the divine presence which rested above my bed. Shimon and Levi are the brothers who plotted against Shechem and against Yosef too. Their murderous use of weapons has been stolen from Esav. When the tribe of Shimon will conspire against Moshe, do not let my own name be mentioned with their conspiracy. When Levi's great-grandson Korach and his colleagues will rebel against Moshe, do not let my honorable name be associated with their rebellious congregation. Shimon and Levi killed every man in Shechem to vent their anger, and they willingly attempted to maim Yosef, who is like an ox, the king of animals. Cursed be their wrath, for it is powerful, and their rage, for it is callous. I will separate them by denying Levi a share in the land, like the other sons of Yaakov, and I'll scatter both of them throughout Israel, since the tribe of Levi will be searching for tithes. When Yehudah saw that Yaakov was rebuking his sons, he drew back. So Yaakov called out to him, Yehudah, you are not like them. Your brothers will acknowledge you as their leader. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. From Yehudah, King David will emerge, first as a lion cub during Shaul's reign, and then a fully grown lion when he becomes king for himself. Even though I suspected you of the plot to tear Yosef like prey, you withdrew yourself from the plot, my son, and you refrained from killing Tamar. Therefore, your descendant King Shlomo will crouch and rest like a lion while the Jewish people dwell in safety. No nation will dare intimidate him as if he were a lion. The stick of authority will never leave Yehudah, nor scholars from the feet of his descendants, until the coming of Mashiach, to whom kingship belongs. He will gather the people. In Yehudah's territory, wine will flow like a fountain, such that a man will harness his donkey to a single vine, or a young donkey to a single vine branch, and will already be loaded to capacity. There will be so much wine that a person could wash his clothes with wine, and his robe with grape juice. People will be red-eyed from wine and white-toothed from the abundance of milk. Zebulun will live in his territory by the seacoast. He will be at the ship's port doing business. The end of his territory will be at Sidon. Yisachar is like a donkey with strong bones, because he bears a yoke of Torah, like a donkey that journeys day and night, resting temporarily between the city borders. The Torah scholar cannot rest day or night from Torah study. Yisachar will see that his portion in the land of Israel is good, and that the land is fertile, so he will not have to work hard. Consequently, he will bend his shoulders down to bear the yoke of Torah, and he will pay his dues by serving the rest of the Jewish people, teaching Torah law. Dan will enact vengeance for his people against the Philistines, and the tribes of Israel will be as one with him. Shimshon, a descendant of Dan, will be a serpent on the road, a viper on the path who bites the horse's heels, so its rider falls backwards without even having to fight with the rider. But when Shimshon will be overcome by his enemies, he will say, I hope for your salvation, O God. As for Gad, troops will troop forth from him over the Jordan River to conquer the land. They will troop back in their own tracks to the lands of their inheritance on the other side of the Jordan, and not one man will be missing from them. From Asher's land will come rich food, and he will provide royal delicacies. Naphtali's land will yield fruit like a gazelle that has just been freed and runs quickly, for which the people will give thanks and blessing. Yosef is a charming son, a son whose charm impresses the eye that sees him. Egyptian girls would step along a wall to gaze at his beauty. His brothers made him bitter, quarreled with him, and hated him. They were men with tongues like arrows. But in spite of that, his power was firmly established, and a golden ring was placed on his finger through the hands of God, the mighty one of Yaakov. And from there he rose to royalty and was a provider of Israel. And this came to you from the God of your father, and he will continue to help you. Your heart was with God when you refused to listen to Potiphar's wife, and therefore he will bless you with the blessings of the heavens above and the blessings of the depths that lie below, the blessings that fathers and mothers need. The blessings which God gave to your father surpass the blessings which he gave to my parents, for he gave me an unlimited blessing, reaching to the end of the world's hills. May all these blessings be on Yosef's head, the man who was separated from his brothers. Benjamin's descendants will be like grabbers, like a wolf that grabs and tears his prey. From him Shaul will arise in the morning of Israel's history, and he will devour plunder. In the evening of Israel's history, Benjamin's descendants, Mordechai and Esther, will divide the spoil of Haman. These are all the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them. In addition to rebuking Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, he blessed them too. He blessed each son with a blessing that fitted him, and he also blessed all of his sons with all of the blessings in general. He instructed them, saying to them, I will soon die, and my soul will be gathered in to be with the souls of my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave which is in Ephraim the Hittite's field, in the cave that's in the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre in the land of Canaan, the field which Abraham bought from Ephraim the Hittite as a burial plot. They buried Abraham and his wife Sarah there. They buried Yitzhak and his wife Rivkah there, and I buried Leah there. The purchase of the field and its cave from the sons of Chet still stands. As Yaakov finished commanding his sons, he gathered his legs onto the bed, breathed his last, and his soul was gathered in to be with the souls of his people. Yosef fell on his father's face, swept over him, and kissed him. Yosef commanded his staff of physicians to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel with spices. After 40 days, which is how long embalming takes, the Egyptians mourned for him for a further 30 days, totaling 70 days. When the period of mourning for him had passed, Yosef spoke to Pharaoh's household, saying, If I have now found favor in your eyes, speak now directly to Pharaoh and tell him that my father bound me by an oath, saying, Look, I am soon going to die. You should bury me in my grave which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. So now please let me go and bury my father. Then I'll return. Go and bury your father, Pharaoh said, as he had you swear. So Yosef went to bury his father. All Pharaoh's servants, the senior members of his house, and all the senior ministers of the land of Egypt were with him, together with Yosef's entire household, his brothers and his father's household. They only left behind their young children, flocks and cattle in the land of Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went along, so the entourage was very large. When they reached Goren HaAtad, which is on the other side of the Jordan, they made a very grandiose and intense eulogy there. Then Yosef designated a mourning period of 7 days for his father. When the Canaanites, the local inhabitants, saw the mourning at Goren HaAtad, they said, This is an intense mourning for the Egyptians. Therefore, they named the place, which is on the other side of the Jordan, Avel Mitzrayim, mourning of Egypt. Yaakov's sons did for him exactly as he had instructed them, not to allow any Egyptian or even one of Yaakov's grandsons to carry him. His sons carried him to the land of Canaan, and they buried him in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, the field which Abraham had bought for a burial plot from Ephraim the Hittite. After he had buried his father, Yosef returned to Egypt, both he, his brothers, and all those who had gone with him to bury his father. Yosef's brothers saw a change for the worse in Yosef's conduct with them after their father had died. They said, Maybe Yosef will start to hate us and pay us back for all the bad things that we did to him. So they fabricated a plan and instructed messengers to go to Yosef and say, Your father instructed us before his death, saying, This is what you should say to Yosef. Please, will you now forgive the wrongdoing of your brothers and their sin, that they did evil things to you? So please, will you now forgive the wrongdoing of the servants of the God of your father? For even though your father died, his God is alive. When the messengers spoke to him, Yosef wept. In addition to sending messengers, his brothers also went to Yosef. They fell down in front of him and said, Look, we are your slaves. Yosef said to them, Don't be afraid, for God only desires the good for you. Am I instead of God? You planned to do bad things to me, but God had already intended that what you did to me should happen for good reasons, in order to make things like they are today, where I'm keeping a great number of people alive. So don't be afraid now. I will provide for you and your children. He continued to comfort them and spoke more words of encouragement to their hearts. Yosef lived in Egypt, both he and his father's household, and Yosef lived 110 years. Yosef saw children of a third generation born to Ephraim. The sons of Machir, Menashe's sons, were born, and Yosef raised them on his knee. Yosef said to his brothers, I am soon going to die. God will surely remember you and take you out of this land, to the land that he swore to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yosef made the children of Israel swear, saying, God will surely remember you, and you should then take my bones out of here. Yosef died at the age of 110 years. They embalmed him, and he was placed into a coffin in Egypt. And that's it, the end of the book of Bereshit. And we say Chazak, Chazak, V'nitchazek, because we are done with this book and we'll be moving on next week to the book of Shemot. So thank you again for sticking with me. And I'm wishing you all a bright and healthy and easy week. Litraot.